In the chaotic aftermath of the 2003 US-led invasion of Iraq, the country was quickly unraveling into something few had predicted: a melting pot of sectarian violence, foreign insurgents, local militias, and shadowy terrorist networks that operated with near impunity. Baghdad, once a functioning capital, had turned into a nerve-wracking labyrinth of danger, where anything could happen to anyone at any moment. And on one seemingly normal spring day in 2004, it did. 5 foreign contractors, 4 Italian and 1 Polish, were yanked off the streets of the Iraqi capital in a meticulously coordinated kidnapping that would soon escalate into a full-blown crisis. The message from the kidnappers was horrifyingly clear: pay a ransom or they would start executing the hostages. And to show they weren't bluffing, they executed one of the Italians on camera and broadcast the footage to the world. A grotesque calling card that would instantly capture the attention of intelligence agencies and special operations commands across the globe. But what followed wasn't a negotiation, it was a manhunt. One that would see America's most elite special operations forces, specifically the U.S. Army's Delta Force, enter the fray. For most people, Delta Force is little more than a name, a mysterious black ops unit rarely acknowledged by the Pentagon and even less often spoken about publicly. But in situations like this, when innocent lives hang in the balance and time is bleeding out, the unit, as it's known internally, doesn't hesitate. With 4 elite squadrons, A, B, C, and D, each packed with roughly 70 of the most highly trained special operators on Earth, Delta Force stands at the pinnacle of the U.S. military's counter-terror and hostage rescue capabilities. Alongside the Navy's own powerhouse, the Naval Special Warfare Development Group, more commonly known as SEAL Team 6, Delta operates under the Joint Special Operations Command, JSOC, ready to deploy anywhere on the planet within hours. And this time, the target was in the middle of Baghdad, a city drowning in insurgency and chaos. Before a single operator straps on a helmet or loads a rifle, intelligence has to do its job. And in a battlefield like 2004 Iraq, that was easier said than done. The insurgency was not a unified enemy. It was a deadly mosaic of actors: Saddam loyalists, Sunni extremists, Shiite militias like the Mahdi Army, and foreign jihadists including Al-Qaeda in Iraq, all with their own turf, rules, and brutality. For Delta Force, the process of finding hostages begins with what one operator called raiding your way to the top. That meant constant action, raids leading to captures, captures leading to interrogations, interrogations leading to more raids. Each piece of intel, whether from a prisoner, a recovered cell phone, or a hastily scribbled note, was a possible key to a locked door. And behind one of those doors, they hoped, were the remaining hostages. Time is everything in these kinds of ops, a retired Delta Force operator later revealed. People think you can track them like in the movies, but the truth is, they move people in minutes. You blink, and the target's gone. That sense of urgency only escalated after a breakthrough. A coalition special operations unit, during a routine debrief of a captured insurgent, extracted a lead, one that hinted at the location of the hostages. Instantly, analysts and field teams shifted gears. Signals intelligence started to focus on a compound that matched the prisoners' descriptions. JSOC's surveillance assets circled overhead. Eyes were on, ears were listening, and JSOC's close target reconnaissance teams moved in, blending into the civilian backdrop, noting patterns of life and exits, guard rotations, and structural weaknesses. Then came confirmation. June 8, 2004. The hostages were there. It was time to go. The mission was urgent, high stakes, and unlike most JSOC operations, it was to take place in broad daylight. Typically, special operators strike at night. Their gear is optimized for it. Night vision goggles, thermal optics, infrared lasers, all give them the edge. But this time, there was no time to wait. The risk of the hostages being moved or killed outweighed the advantage of darkness. And so, Operation Medford was greenlit for a daylight insertion. The Assault Force, a full troop of Delta Force's A Squadron, battle-hardened operators with hundreds of missions under their belts, supported by 8 aircraft from the legendary 1/6 0th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, the Night Stalkers. 4 MH-60 Blackhawks would carry the assaulters. 4 AH-6 and MH-6 Little Birds would provide aerial overwatch and close-in fire support. Their flight path was as daring as the mission itself, low, fast, and aggressive. They screamed over traffic-laden highways, skimmed treetops, and zipped past farmhouses, heading straight into one of the most volatile neighborhoods in Baghdad. The helicopters touched down with surgical precision outside the compound. By then, the element of surprise had evaporated. The rotor blades alone were enough to send every insurgent in a 10-block radius scrambling. But that didn't matter. Delta Force operators poured out of the Blackhawks and into the compound with one goal in mind: find and extract the hostages. The mission was as brutal as it was fast. In just over 17 seconds, yes, seconds, they swept the entire building, neutralized any resistance, and located the 4 remaining hostages. And they were alive. A leaked helmet cam video, which surfaced years later, showed just a glimpse of the moment. In it, Delta operator Jamie Caldwell can be heard shouting to the stunned hostages, "We're Navy SEALs, and we're here to get you out." A sarcastic nod to the infamous 1990 movie Navy SEALs, a film detested by the real-world special operations community for its Hollywood-style inaccuracies. But humor or not, those words marked the beginning of freedom for the captives. After the mission, Caldwell reflected on what it meant to him. "We specialize in hostage rescue," he explained. "You're risking your life for someone you've never met. You've got seconds to make calls. Is that guy a shooter or a hostage? It's the most intense, but also the most rewarding thing we did." Objective Medford was a resounding success. 4 hostages returned home, 0 casualties. Delta Force and the Night Stalkers had once again proven why they're regarded as the world's premier special operations units. But the mission was more than just a tactical win, it was a symbolic one. At a time when insurgent propaganda videos were flooding the internet, when Westerners feared stepping foot in Iraq, and when critics questioned whether the war had spiraled beyond anyone's control, this mission was a reminder that for all the chaos, for all the darkness, there were still those willing to go in and do the impossible. While the success of this mission gave coalition forces a momentary boost, it was just one drop in a sea of escalating violence. Over the coming months and years, Iraq would spiral even further. Fallujah, Najaf, Mosul. The names of cities became synonymous with bloody battles, high casualties, and a new kind of warfare. Delta Force, SEAL Team 6, and the rest of JSOC's units would find themselves repeating Operation Medford on what felt like a monthly basis, sometimes even weekly. Hostage rescues, killer capture raids, targeted strikes against insurgent leadership. The war had entered a phase where elite units weren't just support assets, they were the main effort. Looking back, the 2004 Baghdad rescue isn't often mentioned in mainstream history books. It doesn't have the cinematic flair of bin Laden's compound or the scale of the Battle of Mosul. But for those involved, for the operators, the analysts, the pilots, and especially the hostages, it was a moment that defined the very essence of special operations: precision, speed, bravery, and above all, sacrifice. And in a war where so much went wrong, Objective Medford was something that went right. Do you think missions like these deserve more recognition in the broader narrative of the Iraq War? Should Delta Force's role in shaping modern warfare be more openly acknowledged? Let us know in the comments. And while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe.